Welcome to Pessimism's the optimistic side of National Geographic really emphasized how we already have the technologies we need to reverse climate change, which I agree with. They also, to their credit, mentioned how we need systematic change, that it's a systemic issue. They also seem to just have this notion that social change will happen, not giving much of a mechanism for it at all, such as we'll all start eating less meat, which could happen, but I would expect it to happen more from, say, some type of carbon tax, making meat more expensive. And the big thing is that they seem to have a lot of faith in the youth, and there are quite a few young activists that have seemed to be promising, but the youth has always been promising, and I'm not optimistic that they will save us all. The articles, all the articles seem to really focus on the Western world, the global North, and its adaptation. One article just being a man traveling an electric car across the United States, talking about issues around there. But I mean, that's very niche for a global problem. So that's negative on its side. It used graph, didn't unfortunately give sources for it, especially its future predictions. But I feel it kind of undermines the point of the growth of renewables. When you look at the natural gas, that is also going up at about the same rate as renewables. Luckily, though, coal is seeming to plummet. So there's good news there. The positive also has a fantastic example of greenwashing from the Dow company. This is where companies try to look environmentally friendly when they're really not. The Dow is funding beach pickup for plastic, which is good, and is actually the only Global South reference I noticed. But that's basically nothing. But we should really care about where the plastic's coming from, not trying to desperately pick up small bits of it on random beaches. This gives, and this also drains motivation of people because they feel like they've done something good. And yeah, arguably they have done something good. They've cleaned a beach of trash. But what they really should be worried about is, where is this trash coming from? Why is it always here? Is there a better way to do it than meticulously picking out plastic from sand? It's a moral lesson. And the lies told in the 70s, that is referring mostly to recycling of plastic in general, where it just doesn't happen. Some plastic is recyclable, but really it was just a cover for the plastics industry, a greenwashing, to make themselves look better and to make customers feel better for buying so much plastic, which ultimately cannot be recycled, and is shipped to the global south, away from people's view, so they feel like they actually recycled. They took it to the recycling center, they did something good, and they can consume as much as they want now because it's recyclable, even though it's not. This is a reference to the other graph. This purple line doesn't have units on the scale, but is CO2 emitted per unit energy. And what you have noticed, it's going down, but I'm not convinced if that's simply because coal has been phased out, replaced with much more natural gas and renewables, because natural gas is more efficient, less polluting. However, not drastically so. So this rather unimpressive slope kind of undercuts how explosive the growth of renewable energy is compared to how much it needs, such as removing coal entirely instead of it petering out, settling out at a higher level than zero. And CO2 overall from energy production has been pretty meager. It's been something, so that's nothing. It's nothing to scoff at. The pessimistic side really focuses on our disconnection from nature as humans and the damage we are causing, which is severe. It also has some focus on the emotional impact and the cultural and community destruction, such as Inuit tribes basically being unable to live as the snow is destroyed and so are the animals. You can't hunt bears or fish or go after whales because they're all dying or lose their habitat. It also mentions a rather severe issue of the local climate changing to much harder desert-like environments where water becomes far less accessible, which will definitely feed into a refugee crisis. Though it does admit a glimmer of hope that it can be changed. It's not endless doom. My criticism there on this side is that it seems to really place the responsibility on the individual, which I feel is faulty. Saying that unless people in 50 years change their behavior, this will happen, this 4-degree rise in temperature. The pessimists, for being pessimists, don't even say we're doomed, which I find a bit odd. So I'm going to go ahead and show my perspective. Well, it's a bit dramatic, but a more nuanced take of it is that the optimists and pessimists are actually compatible. The optimists give no mechanisms for the systematic change that they say is needed, and the pessimists focus on consequences of the inaction. So all we need to do is find out what we need to do for systematic change to prevent the inaction. And the why they avoid is the politics and power. And the thing is, we need to do this fast. It'll take 20 to 30 years for the people currently in power to exit their power and be replaced with more modern, and even the more modern thinkers say the millennials taking power, they're going to be subject to the same force as the others were, that the boomers were. If you take the throne acts upon you, this force is beyond simply becoming a representative of the United States. And that's where political entrenchment comes from, where this is why it's so hopeless, is that stuck on a two-party system because we use first-past-the-post voting, we're stuck with gerrymandering, which allows this representative to pick its voters, and we're getting very good with computers to make sure we have as many guaranteed seats as we want. There's also court packing, both federal and local. There's voter suppression of people you don't want voting, and there's unlimited dark money available with the Passionate Citizens United. So corporations can absolutely pour any amount of money they want into a political campaign to get what they want from that politician. This is the throne acting upon the person who sits upon it. In the corporate mode, and it's corporations here, the corporations have a legal duty to the shareholders' wealth, and that's all the legal duty they have. They do short-term thinking where they put off as many externalities as they can to keep competitive and cheap externalities such as CO2 emissions. The greenwashing that is stakeholder corporatism, it has no legal backing. I think it's just a ruse. And there's really only 25 companies that can be traced to emit half of the world's CO2. This is everything in their supply chain. Naturally, most of them are fossil fuel providers. Which is unfortunate. Things like cement production, they actually can reduce rather significantly their CO2 footprint in their supply chain, as opposed to the people that actually produce that coal to output. Why it's so intractable politically is that while the rumors were indoctrinated with anti-left and anti-fascist propaganda, Nazis bad and the Red Scare, eventually they kind of settled on a middle ground of neoliberalism. The 60s did happen, so did the 70s, but it all settled down. Unfortunately, now the internet's free nature and the echo chambers it promotes have opened the door to just an ideological grab bag of more extremist and different views entering, which has kind of caused a resurgence of fascism in the political world, unfortunately. I am not an inventor, I'm not a politician, I'm not an oligarch. I don't have power, and I'm not a creative in engineering. I'm not going to create something magical that will save the world, and I can't really influence politics. I will probably do nothing to better the world. I want to be an academic. I'll probably want to promote something like eco-socialism, but I don't think I even do that because it's dangerous. With fascism on the rise, the Nazis, for instance, killed the socialists first, as political rivals. On top of all that, there's the typical Red Scares that seem to happen in America that used to feed the military-industrial complex. Be afraid of China. They're threatening us. It's all danger, stirring up more anti-left feelings. It's not good to promote leftist politics in the current world I live in. And so I probably won't change anything. I feel too many people follow this type of ethic. I don't, but I felt it was a fantastic quote to share. It's from a video game. It's quite nice. And that's it. It's quite a lot.